Glad to be here. I think this is an amazing opportunity. What? I thought, okay. Anyways, I think Lupe was saying something.
Oh, she should be moved over to, Lupe, are you talking right now? Let's go ahead and start talking, John. I think we're okay.
Okay, awesome. I just want to say thank you for the opportunity just to do this, to have this conversation. I think it's really neat that you, Chief, are willing to have dialogue like this. I think it's rare, and so the fact that you're willing to allow people to just like have conversations with you is amazing. My son actually, and then I'll get to the questions, but my son was like, I told him that I knew the chief of police. He's like, no, you don't, Dad. So yes, I do. He's watching right now. Told you. So yeah, I just thank you for having me, Jill. Thank you for doing this. And so I guess we just start off with some questions, huh?
Absolutely. So first, I just want to clear it up. It's John Pitta, not John Ritter.
Hey, I was gonna go along with it.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. It's like the bread, pita bread. So yeah. But right. Cool. Thank you for clearing that up.
Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. No problem at all. So there were a couple questions that came up. So I've watched previous of your talks, that the chat with the Chiefs, and it seems like everyone has their, like, the catalytic converter has always been a topic of conversation. I actually had to Google search what that was because I had no idea. But there was another question today about that, the catalytic converter, and just let's see, I'm pulling it up right now. But about just like, again, I guess what the best practices are to prevent theft from happening, but also is there a way to hold people responsible who are the ones that are like purchasing these stolen CCs?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we talked in depth the last chat with the chief about this. It is an epidemic right now, these catalytic converter thefts. And like we talked last time, it's not just Rohnert Park, it's Rohnert Park, Cotati, Petaluma, it's countywide, it's statewide. And there are rashes of them, and we're still experiencing them. Part of the problem is these criminals who are stealing these, they're very good at it. It only takes some minutes to get that thing out of your car. So, you know, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about what we're doing for it. I can tell you that we have a lot of resources aimed at the problem. And, you know, we have made a couple of arrests, but unfortunately we arrest one and there's 10 more out there to take care of. So, you know, we talked last time about the fact that arresting someone for a property crime, putting him in jail, they're just kind of walking out the back right now because of the just the way with the pandemic that the courts and the jails are trying to, keep their staff safe. So, we see the revolving door. That's part of the problem. It's lucrative. The consequences for getting caught right now, they do not rise to the what they're getting from stealing them, right? It's the value outweighs the consequences. That's another thing we're seeing. So we really got to go into prevention. And what we need people to do is understand that, this is serious. And I will tell you, we talked last week, they are targeting Priuses. They'll take them from others, but they want the Prius because that's the value pack right there, that Prius catalytic converter. If you own a Prius, please take care of that thing. Get it in the garage. Get an alarm on it, a motion alarm on it, because they've got to get that car jacked up to get under there. So do something like that. Go to a mechanic or a welding shop. See if they can put something and protect it with a cage. I know we talked that there are some features out there that can be bolted on that at least extends the time it takes to get it off, right? So that you have a better chance of getting an alarm going off or a light coming on or something. But if you own a Prius, I keep seeing them. We're not that the message is not getting out there that you've got to protect that catalytic converter if you have a Prius. You shouldn't have to. You should live in a community where people respect your property. But these people are coming from outside. They're coming from the Bay Area, and they're coming into the little small towns like Petaluma and Rohnert Park and Gatati, and they're coming in on these sprees and they're getting out of here. And I will tell you that we are not only working it on the front end to try to prevent the thefts, but we are also working the back end to try to figure out where these things are going and move from that end. And it's not just Rohnert Park. We have a lot of people who are aware of it. We have a lot of people working together. A lot of the, as we call it, the alphabet soups, right? DOJ, right? Task forces that are working on that end also. So great question. It's I wish I could stop the thefts right now from occurring, but we need everyone's help, and we need cars put in a position where they're not subject to getting them stolen.
Yeah. Do you know why Priuses are being targeted the most?
So I think Jill went over this the last time.
Okay.
She's kind of my expert on it, but and correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, but whatever is the makeup of that catalytic converter for that electric Prius, that Toyota Prius is more valuable. Whatever's inside that, the metals are more valuable than just say one off a Honda or something. That's why I say they'll take a Honda if that's what they got, or they'll take a Ford pickup if that's what they got. But they're really looking for the Prius because the value of it is so much greater.
That's correct. Yeah, there are more metals in the Prius converter, so they get more for that particular converter. So that's why that's the target. And we talked, the last chat, that this is a national issue. And I was recently reviewing an article that was actually sent to me. AAA had put some information out. So if you're interested in reading up a little bit more as to why they take it, some prevention, a lot of what we've talked about is where you're parking and try to, maybe put an alarm. Also talk with your insurance carrier and see if there's anything that they're offering or doing on this. I saw a report that said from 2008 to 2015, a third of the catalytic converter thefts happened in California. I'm expecting some new data coming out next week specific to converters. And so I'm curious to see if this is still kind of a larger issue in California or other states. And so right now it's prevention. There are shields and cages and things that you can put on your vehicle that will be a deterrent. So it's really deterrent at this point, especially if you are a victim and you get it replaced. We're seeing repeat because someone knows that vehicle has been repaired. And so then we're seeing that converter taken again. So try to take some prevention, maybe talk to your insurance carrier and see if they're offering any assistance as well.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So Chief, you had mentioned something about the pandemic, like how you're seeing theft coming up during the pandemic with these CCs. Someone had asked if there has been an increase since the pandemic with crime rate. And I think so specifically, they were saying that there was a 10-year-old who got their bike stolen by knife point on Southwest Boulevard. And so yeah, has crime since the pandemic taken place? Have you seen a rise statistically in crime rate?
We're actually about to put out our part 1 and part 2 crimes for 2020. Okay. We do it every year in March. And so it will be going, it's on the council agenda for the not the 9th meeting, but the 23rd. So all that, the actual data will be out there. We also try to keep up our on our PD page, on our transparency page, the previous month's stats. We want people to see what's going on out there. So there are 2 places you can get the actual numbers if you want to see them. But we have seen we have seen some increases in especially property crimes during, especially, when the pandemic, when was a lot of people losing their job, a lot more people home. We saw an increase in like some out in the industrial area where some of the businesses were shut down during the shelter in place, so they were pretty vulnerable. It hasn't been incredibly high, but we have seen that some changes in our crimes. And I mean, I can't help but think it has something to do with the pandemic and the fact that people are out of work, and we've had food insecurities. We've had a lot of things that push people to do things they probably wouldn't do prior. Violent crime, we haven't seen a huge uptick in it, but we have seen some series, and you're correct. That was that unfortunate incident the other day with the person losing their bike. We had another one about a week before, where another bike was taken by force from a 15-year-old, and it's what our job is to find that person who did it. Now we there wasn't a car in the area, and they don't usually commit those crimes when the car is driving by. So we responded to 2 of those. We're taking this very seriously. But as a community, I want everybody to be able to feel safe, walking around our community at any time, right? But we also just have to be aware. We have to make sure we're staying in well-lit areas at night, because there are people who will take advantage of the situation, right? We talk all the time about the crime needs, it needs intent and opportunity, right? The intent is usually on the part of the criminal, the person who's going to commit the crime. The opportunity is something we have control of, so try to eliminate the opportunity. And I'm in no way saying this is, anything that happens out there is anyone's fault. I'm just saying, while we're talking on the subject, just make sure that when you're walking out there, you're not on your phone, you got your head on a swivel, you're kind of paying attention. Because people prey on that. When they see someone, they're all their attention is focused down on their phone, you can come up on people quick, you can take advantage. So, just stay alert when you're out there, and make sure you're staying in lit areas, and walk with someone, 2 people. But crime's not out of control, but we have seen ebbs and flows of it during the pandemic.
Yeah. Okay. So someone had just posted in the chats, are there politicians that we should contact to get them to increase the penalty for these property crimes? It's obvious that the penalty doesn't deter the criminals.
So if and kind of a little bit of a history lesson maybe. So I don't know if everybody remembers, but a few years back, they put a proposition on the ballot called Prop 47. And if you remember, Prop 47, they sold it to the public as basically money for schools, right? If Prop 47 passes, we're going to be able to funnel all this money into our schools, right? And schools were hurting, right? We were getting low test scores in California, right? We needed to do something about our schools. We needed to build more schools. So Prop 47 came out and said, hey, pass Prop 47 and we will give money to the schools. Well, what Prop 47 was what they wanted to do was they needed to shrink the populations of prisons, right? And so by passing Prop 47, it started to take down the seriousness of crimes, many of them property crimes. And by doing that, it said, okay, if you committed this crime, it's no longer a felony, it's a misdemeanor. Therefore, you aren't going to be in prison. So you'll either spend time in jail or you'll just be out on the street. So Prop 47 was the first watering down that we saw of these consequences, right? And then a few years later comes Prop 57. And it basically decriminalized most of your drug offenses, right? So possession of methamphetamine, possession of heroin, possession of cocaine, that it all became a misdemeanor, right? Not a felony anymore. So as I was coming up in my career, if I arrested you with a little baggie of methamphetamine in your pocket, it was a felony crime and you went to jail and started that process there. Today, if I catch you or my staff catches you with a big bundle of methamphetamine or heroin, we're going to write you a ticket, just like if you would run a stop sign,
Wow.
and we're going to send you on your way, right? So at some point, we need to switch that tide. Okay, maybe people said it was too high, but what we're seeing now is the bar is too low. So we definitely need our legislators to start looking at this again and start putting some more consequences on there. It's just like the catalytic converter.
Right.
When the benefit of committing the crime outweighs the consequences of getting caught, we're starting to fight a losing battle.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're seeing. So, yeah, I mean, I think what I would ask is that, when these propositions come out, educate yourself on them, because, I feel that, that when that Proposition 47 came out, it was sold as a completely different thing than it was. People bought into it because they saw money for schools and didn't really understand the consequences that it was going to do and start watering down our criminal justice system.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow.
I hope I answered your question. That was kind of long-winded, I know.
No, yeah, that answered in my mind for sure. So thank you. So to continue with the vandalism, like that whole theme, the original question was, has there been an uptick during the pandemic? But we also had someone else email us actually, and they noticed that there's more graffiti, vandalism, break-ins, and they were wondering if the rise in those things is tied to the political landscape of how law enforcement chooses to react to those things.
That's a great question. So I will tell you and I know that we're talking about that national narrative that, the after George Floyd, and then, the movement that went on, the BLM movement that went on. I'm sure that's the political issues that we're talking about here. So if I'm wrong, I hope that person reaches out to me. But when that first happened, and people were marching in the street and and talking about defunding the police, I can tell you that for a lot of my staff, a lot of my 20 and 30-year-old public safety officers who got in this job to, like, really for the right reasons, they started. I mean, they're like, "What's going on here?" Now we're the bad guys, and everyone. And so there was a lot of discussions in this building about, you have to do your job. You don't get to say, I'm not going to stop people, I'm not going to contact people because of what's going on out there. If you remain professional and respectful, you're not going to have a problem.
Yeah.
And that's what we build on here is we do our job with professionalism and respect. So I won't believe that the officers aren't out there doing their job.
Right.
I know they are. I see the statistics that come in. I hear the radio. I know what they're doing. But I don't know if it's just out front more. Next door really has been. It's a blessing and a curse. It really is, because I think it allows people to know what's going on. And that's good, because when people have the information, they talk about it, they're more aware of it. It helps us out. But we didn't used to have that. So people weren't as aware of what was going on. So I don't know that crime is any higher or any worse. I think that we're just more aware of it because we have way more available tools to get messages out and for people to talk amongst themselves and, share stuff on social media. But it comes back down to I always tell people, your neighborhood better than I do and better than my officers do.
Yeah.
Right. They know their neighborhood, but when they're driving down your street, they don't actually know who should be there, who shouldn't be there, who's out of place. Right. But you do. And we're here for you. So if you let us know, we will get there. We will go there. We will talk to the people, find out what they're doing in the neighborhood. Right. Use us to do that. But if you don't call us, we won't know. There's a lot of people who are not going to work every day. There are a lot of kids who aren't going to school every day, and So, we do see a little bit of uptick sometimes in graffiti and vandalism. Um, and I keep saying we got to get our kids back into school, so to give them their direction again and their track. But I don't think there's this huge uptick in it. I think we're aware of it more. We're seeing it more. Our patterns have changed, right? I know when I go to work, I generally get up, I drive the same street every day and come to work. And if I was working from home or doing it different, I'd probably take it different directions and go in different places, seeing things that I hadn't seen before, which may make me believe I'm seeing more of something. So that's what I would say.
Yeah. So if we saw something like suspicious in our neighborhood, do we call 911, or is there like a secondary number to dial?
There is. So there's emergency, which is 911. That means I need someone now because something bad is about to happen, right? That's our emergency line. And we really want to keep that clear for emergencies.
Right.
But our non-emergency line, I know Jill puts the number up there every chat for us, is, I want to say, 584-2612 or 2600. 2600.
2600.
584-2600. So, and yeah, we encourage people to call. We want people to call.
Okay.
That I keep telling people, we are here for that. You're never bothering us.
Yeah.
And if I hear an officer saying I was bothered by the call, then I'll be talking to the officer about that. Right. Yeah. And I've never heard an officer say, I can't believe I got to go to this call. Like, they know that's their job. Right. And
right.
We know that when someone calls us, it's usually because at that point in time, it's the most important thing going on in their life. And they need help because the situation is to a point where they don't want to or can't handle it. So that's why they call us. That's our job.
Right.
Just call.
Yeah. That's good. So let's jump from graffiti and vandalism to speeding cars. So someone from Facebook said, "Hi, Chief. I love living here. Please stop and ticket all those fast, scary drivers." So I guess this person wants you to ticket all the fast, scary drivers.
And I would be happy to. I've talked a little bit in the past. We recently were able to get our new motor officer. I mean, he's not. I keep saying new. He's starting to become a veteran on the bike now. He's been out there long enough. But getting that second motor officer out on the street has been really helpful. We have seen a huge increase in our citations. And so the thing is that Officer Cooper is our new motor officer. And one of the things that he and the traffic sergeant do is they target areas based on concerns that come in and complaints that come in. So because they're not just going to drive around if they know that there's an issue at this place, they'll go over there. So I encourage people to email us. We have a department email, and they can email me directly. I get emails and I ship them straight to Lee and the sergeant, and they can, and then they'll put them on their sheet, and then they'll say, okay, we're going to work traffic in this area, right? I mean, they generally work traffic in Rohnert Park Expressway, country club, golf course. But if there's a particular problem in a neighborhood or in another area, if you let us know, we'll get it on their sheet and they'll go target that. And then I'm out quite a bit, and I drive a unmarked black SUV.
Yeah, you do.
It comes with all the lights and sirens. But I can't do traffic control in that vehicle because of certain laws. You have to have a vehicle that's marked. Right. So I can't go out in my vehicle and do traffic control because they say it wouldn't be fair. I'm not sure I understand that, but oftentimes if I'm driving from one location to another location, I'm not out doing traffic control, and I see someone speeding, they will get a ticket from the chief, and they have several times. So to answer that person's question, I will try to ticket all the fast, dangerous drivers. But I do expect the officer to do it. And we do a lot of traffic control. But let us know where they're at.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So in regards to speeding, those little green turtles with the flags that parents put out in the street? So we had a neighbor, hopefully they're not watching, or maybe glad they are watching, but we had a neighbor that put one of those turtles out in the street. But another neighbor had called, I think they called the police about that. So can the green turtles be in the street or no?
So you can't obstruct a roadway in any way or any manner, right? And you can't obstruct a parking place with something other than a vehicle. So technically, putting those out in the street, if you're obstructing a roadway or parking or disrupting the neighborhood, is not allowed. However, I mean, I have 3 children, and I used to use those little green turtles myself, but it was a neighborhood thing, right? We all wanted traffic to slow down and let them know. So, I think that what you got to do is you got to have a discussion with your neighbors, make sure, you're all on the same page, because if they do call, we're going to go out there and say, hey, you need to move that on the sidewalk, right? Which somewhat defeats the purpose.
Right. Just a little.
Or just find a location to the entry into your neighborhood or something you can put it. But really, it's just a matter of talking to your neighbors and just saying, hey, you guys okay with this? My kids are gonna be out there, and
Yeah.
and if and it does a lot of things. One, it introduces you to a neighbor that you might not have known, because neighbors really got to start looking out for each other. But yes, if we come out there, we're going to ask you to move it off the sidewalk.
Yeah. It's funny. I had never realized neighbor dynamics until I moved a couple years back. And so just like the stereotype of neighbors, and it's funny to me. So I was going nowhere with that. I'm sorry. But let's see here. Hi, Nikki. Shout out. When is someone, so this is from the chat, when is someone going to address the Burlington Coat Factory campground and the ridiculous mess at Redwood and Laguna? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm telling you, the homeless / unsheltered, ongoing situation in this town is just, that's a daily grind. It is every day we're dealing with it, right? So the Burlington, we are dealing with it. The code enforcement officer in the city is dealing with that private property. So we have different mechanisms that we have to go through when we're dealing with private property. We can't just go in there and tell someone they have to get off private property. The property owner has to do that. So we work through the property owner to get the property owner to do that. And, the person who's asking about that will probably also have to say that, yeah, every time one leaves, another one comes in. So we solve that problem and another one's created, right? It's just this, it's this just vicious cycle through there. One of the things we did a while back was we passed a ordinance to address shopping carts, right? One, we don't want shopping carts leaving the stores, and we don't want shopping carts used to carry and to transport this property that we see just moving all over the city, right? Because it allows people to kind of take on a lot of like trash and then move it and leave it. So we passed an ordinance. Well, we dealt with an individual the other day that had, I think, 12 shopping carts in their possession full of stuff, right? And we can't allow that because it was just moving all around town. So we addressed it by giving the person bags to put their stuff in and then removing the shopping carts. Everything they left behind now has to go through another procedure, and it has to be tagged, and it has to remain tagged for a certain period of time before we then can go in and remove it. That is all based on court decisions and case laws. And because many cities have gotten sued and lost for throwing away someone's property, which the city viewed as trash, the owner viewed as property, we have to be very careful on that. I know people would love us to just take the backhoe with the front loader, just go in and clean it up. But we have to follow the laws that the different courts have set down to us. And if anybody thinks that we like what that looks like out there, they're wrong. But we have to follow certain procedures in order so we don't create liability for the city. Because then,
Right.
if I don't want to waste taxpayers' money paying to litigate, because we threw someone's, holy sleeping bag away, right? I'd rather just do it right and then pay Public Works or the company to come in and clean that up. And people have seen, and especially on Laguna, that's a problem, right? It's a great area for people to kind of get out of the view of people out there. But they've also seen a lot of police activity. They've seen a lot of code enforcement activity, and they've seen a lot of cleanups going there. But like I said, it's a vicious cycle. We just keep going. We get it cleared, they go somewhere else, we clear that, and they come back.
Yeah.
So I hope no one thinks we're turning a blind eye to it, but we have rules and laws we have to follow when we're dealing with them.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So we had on Facebook, someone was asking about, I'll just read it. Can you speak to what's happening with the drag racing and burnouts on Country Club almost every night and sometimes during the late afternoon? And then someone in the chat asked if there could be like flashing yellow lights for walkers on Copeland Creek. Oh, maybe that's a different place, Copeland Creek. But anyways, I guess we can go with that first question about Country Club and drag racing.
I was not familiar with that issue. This is the first time hearing about it on Country Club. But we can absolutely do something about it. We have all of our officers, most of our officers are trained in radar or LiDAR. And we have the traffic, department. So, now that I know, don't worry about writing in. I'll let the traffic person know. Where exactly, what part of Country Club is it? And I just hope the person can just reach out, just let me know the parameters on where it's taking place on Country Club.
Yeah, so let's see here. So Copeland Creek, Country Club from Copeland Creek, walking trail. Yeah, so I think this is a different person, but
Yeah, so we have from Facebook the drag racing and burnouts on Country Club, and so I'll see if who put that in on Facebook answers your question on more details. And then it was a separate question that someone in the chat was asking about speeding motorists, also talking about Country Club, but was asking about the yellow light, and so you can see what her comments are there.
yeah, thank you, Joe. So there's another person in our chat. There have been a lot of news stories about negative interactions with police lately. Considering it often takes two to fight, what are some things that the public can do when contacted by police to make sure the experience doesn't escalate unnecessarily?
Yeah, so, police officers are acting on the information that they have at the time, right? And a lot of times people want to argue and debate out on the scene, at the time, or disagree with what the officer's asking them to do. And that's a lot of times where, when I see these news stories or I hear about them, that's a lot of times where things started going sideways. And, I just want people to know that, if you're stopped by a law enforcement officer, there are certain rules that officer also has to follow, right? And if you believe that the officer's in the wrong, or that the officer, you shouldn't have to do something, or that is not the time to argue about it, right? There is a process in place, and I assure you that process is thorough for you to come in and voice your concern and your complaint, and it will be looked into. But it's not out there. So what I would ask is, if you're contacted by an officer, just kind of follow the instructions, follow what they're trying to ask you to do. Where an individual has the right to back off from if that officer is using excessive force, a person then has a right to overcome that force that's being used against them. But short of that, an officer has a right to, if you're legally detained, can and is asking you to sit on the curb, or you're going to detain you, you need to go along with it. When it's all over and you think you've been wrong, you come in, and there's a process in place to look at that and to see if the officer did the job out there. But I'm telling you, it's not out on the street. That's not the time to do it.
Yeah.
It's just gonna escalate, and we don't want escalation.
Right.
We really don't. Every officer I've ever worked with, and every officer I work with right here, I know that when they come to work, they want to come in, do their job, and they want to go home at night. They're going home to families also. So the last thing they're looking for is to be out there jacking things up and escalating. They want to keep things calm and neutral and just get the job done. So,
yeah. Thank you. So one of the examples was, when you get pulled over, should the driver wait until the officer arrives at the car before reaching into the glove box? I don't know why they'd go in the glove box, but
yeah, unfortunately, that's where, most of your insurance and
yeah.
your,
Gotcha.
registration papers are kept. I guess now everyone has their insurance on their phone, but yes, absolutely. And there's a couple reasons for that. I mean, there are times, the other day I pulled over a car because they were dragging something. And it had to be, they had run over a branch or something. It was under the car, but I could see they were dragging something. I was literally just stopping them to let them know, hey, you got something dragging. I don't know if it's going to damage your car, but I need to let you know that, right? I didn't need them to go in their glove compartment or anything. I just needed them to know that was. So
Yeah.
Just wait till the officer gets up there, right? What our concern is when we see people moving around in a car, we don't know what's in that car. We have no idea if there's a weapon in the car or what, right? So, part of our training is that we're always, when we're stopping the car, from the time we get out, we're watching the occupant in the car. We're looking, are people dipping down, or furtive movements, or,
Yeah.
because that starts raising our concerns as we're walking up on a car full of people or full of an individual that we don't know. We don't know what's in the car. So just remain calm, and the officer will walk you through it, right? And we'll get you through that car stop if you allow us to.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So from Facebook, we have another drag strip. East Catati, Camino Colegio, all hours, day and night. This person said that they spoke with the officers, but it seemed like they didn't care. So, yeah.
Well, that's I'm always concerned when someone says that they spoke to an officer and the officer didn't appear to care. And here's kind of a rule that I use when I talk to an officer, and I say, hey, I had somebody come in and they called me and said that they had an interaction with you, and you appeared you didn't care, or you appeared disinterested, or and I get that side, and it's like, well, I was listening, and so what I tell them is, I said, well, that's fine, but we did something, we missed it somewhere, because we left someone with an impression that we didn't care. Even if we cared more than anything in the world, we did not portray that. So, it's kind of, so that's a concern. But yeah, as far as the speeding, I'm actually, I get the chat, I get a record of the chat so I can go. So all these speeding issues will be passed on to the traffic sergeant tomorrow morning. I'll see him first thing in the morning when he comes in, and don't be surprised to see people down there. I do know that on East Catati, on Rohnert Park Expressway, on Snyder, we write a lot of tickets, right? It's unfortunate because usually if we're on East Catati at Camino Colegio, no one drag races and no one speeds, right? And so when we're there, we don't see it. But then when we leave to go somewhere else or go handle a call and no one's there, we see it. So but we'll address it. We have no shame in addressing these speeders and writing citations in order to change behavior. That's what we'll do.
Yeah. It seems like multiple people have suggested some type of like crossing lights. Where would they go to like voice their need or want to add a light at a crosswalk?
Yeah, so there's several places you can do it. If you go on the city website, you can go on, and I'm going to ask Jill for help on this because we went over it last week. So I know that I have an app on my phone called, it is a city app where you can report issues and problems. And of course, when I'm looking for it, it seems to disappear on my phone there. Jill, can you jump in and save me here?
So it's Reach Rohnert Park is what it is on the website. And so, and I don't have the app. I think it's Go Request or something specific for the app. But if you go into the city website, you can report 24/7 there a lot of issues that residents have that aren't necessarily always law enforcement related. And so that's something where if you have issues with speeding or have some suggestions or light requests, you can go there. Vandalism, graffiti, you can upload photos as well. And then the city responds from those reports. And so that's a nice option as well.
Yeah, because anytime there's a request for, we get a lot of requests for speed bumps, right? But if there's a request to traffic related request to slow down or something, that's going to go pretty much through our engineering department, and the traffic engineer will review it to see if there's a need. There's a process to go, but that process doesn't get started unless someone brings it up, right? So if you have a concern, let the city know. And, of course, I'll pass any of this information on tomorrow also, but that don't not do it. Still put it in, but I'll say this came up on the chat tomorrow. And it is Go Request on your app.
Oh, I don't know what that was. So Facebook, there's another drag racing place on K section between Carrington Road and Petaluma Hill Road. So yeah, it looks like you said, you'll mention it to your traffic sergeant about those. So, yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So kind of jumping gears, there was an email that came in about human trafficking, and it was from Trafficking Survivor. And this question, this person asked is, are there steps being taken to combat human trafficking in our city? And I guess she's asking you personally, would you be open to like open dialogue to learn more about that?
Absolutely. So, and I don't know if this is the same person who reached out to me a while back, but someone I received an email a while back, and I had actually encouraged the person to come in and talk through Zoom, because I'd really like to be able to have someone who can share real life experiences with my staff, right? To help them know what to look for, what are the signs, what are the right questions to ask. So to start off, yes, absolutely. Anytime we can get real life experiences in here to train our staff, I'm all for it. And Jill, I think, has already put it up, or she usually puts up my email up there for people to email me directly. But yes, and we have a 3-person team. They're called the cops, my cops team, and they work. They're like my in-house task force to address issues that I don't want to tie patrol up with, or they're just going to take too much time away from patrol, or that patrol just doesn't have that expertise. And one of the things they work is prostitution and human trafficking, along with the drug issues, right? And we have made numerous arrests for human trafficking with that team. But the arrest doesn't stop there. When we do that, we're bringing in, bring in different agencies to assist the victims. We also bring in different agencies who can assist in prosecution at a different level than maybe a county prosecution. So yes, we take a very, very active approach to the prostitution and human trafficking when it comes in the city. And we don't wait for, we're pretty proactive in going out and looking for it. So yeah, I can't go into a lot more detail because the cops team is not, they're not driving around in my marked vehicles and with red lights on top. So, but I will tell you that it is a priority of them, and we've done some good work in that area. But I can assure you that we're missing some, and so anytime we can get someone who has that expertise and can tell us and help us, I would encourage them to reach out.
Yeah. Is that pretty, human trafficking, is that pretty high in this county, Sonoma County?
I think that people would be amazed if they knew how widespread it was. It is kind of still an underground type of a crime.
Yeah.
It's not in your face, it's not out there. But it's prevalent, and it is a victim crime. These young people are being taken advantage of. They're being, forced to do things, and I think it's a lot more than people would believe,
Wow.
personally. But because it's underground, it's not out there, people don't see it. You're not in it, involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great question. So from Facebook, someone said, excuse me, a section has several RVs with expired tags and several people living in them. They're coming and going right in front of the school. So they said that cops get called constantly, yet over a year they're still there. So I guess it's just a concern of them calling. Is that really even making a difference in
The RV question, it will be the death of me. But because it's, so first of all, I've addressed this, I know in past ones. So I know that the city, the Lou Kirk over in the city code enforcement is working right now with city attorney, my deputy chief, to rewrite the code. We got to take it back, right? We got to take it to council and see where they want to go with it. But we're starting that process to start that ball rolling again, to see how we can just address trailers and RVs in this city. It's bigger than it looks, because if you're going to have a parking program, there's just so many requirements by the state to do that. So we're trying to figure out how to address them. But the RVs, I know people think we're not doing anything about them. We're addressing RVs every single day, and we're citing RVs every single day. What people want us to do is they want us to hook the RV up to a tow truck and get it out of there. And that in lies my problem. Is there is one tow company in the county of Sonoma who has a capability of towing RVs. That tow company has a storage yard that is only so big, and they need room to store the cars that are coming in also. When you tow a RV for registration or 72-hour parking, the requirement of the tow yard is they have to keep that RV in their yard for 30 days. And if the person doesn't come to claim it or can't get it out, then they can start the process of a lien on it, which is additional days. And it's about a 45 to 60 day period for them to get that RV out of their yard. So they don't want RVs taking up the room in their yard for 60 days, right? They can only have so many of them. So the problem isn't a desire to get the RVs out of there and to if they're expired, to tow them. The problem is the ability to get them out of there. I have no way to tow them, and I have nowhere to put them. So I can't move them. So we try to do it through citation, because that's the tool we have that we have access to. But, you know, courts are being pretty lenient right now on the unsheltered who are racking up fines for parking their only residence, their only roof over their head somewhere, right? And so we can cite them, but the court has discretion on what they do. So we're doing what we can. We are doing everything we can to deal with the RVs. We've looked at finding a lot in Rohnert Park to put them. There's nowhere to put them because it would require a fenced yard. It has to be secured. It would require someone to monitor that yard, someone to be there during work hours to let people in and out to get stuff out of there. So it's also not just finding an empty lot to drag them over to. It has to be a secured facility where their property is safe. So
yeah.
These are the same, the questions that people have out there about the RVs are the same questions that we have when we're sitting in our command staff meetings, when we're sitting on our homeless task force meeting. But I would encourage anybody who, I mean, the frustration level is one thing, but who has ideas or who wants to kind of be part of the solution, to look into joining and becoming a member of the homeless roundtable that the city has started, and the roundtable is taking off, because there are people on that roundtable now who are working towards solutions for the unsheltered. So, you know, we can talk about it, you know, or we can become part of the solution finders and try to help do it. And the homeless roundtable would be a great place for someone who has ideas and answers to go to and become part of.
Yeah, yep, that's good. So it seems that a police officer has a lot of responsibility, and there's a lot of just a lot of stuff that they have to see, that they have to deal with, that they have to address. And I could imagine, since police officers are human beings, right, that must take a toll on just like the mental side of the job, right? Of what they see and what they're dealing with, what they have to work through. And so I was just wondering, what are some procedures that you guys have to help with the mental well-being of your team, of an officer?
Yeah, so we have, the city itself has a employee program, EAP, Employees Assistance Program, that's available for any employee who needs to talk to somebody or wants to talk to somebody. We also have our psychiatrist who does our psychs, who's available if an officer needs to, talk to them. We have in our department a peer support team, members of the department who are trained in peer support to, one, recognize when someone might be going through something, and being able to talk to them and steer them to, if they need to, go talk to somebody. So that's a really important part right here, because no one knows the officers better in here than the officers themselves. We try to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. But this is a job that I think things stack through a career, right? It may not be something completely horrendous that you saw, but it's just the continual things that you go to, the car crashes, the children incidents that you deal with, the death notifications that you have to make to family, and those little things, they just build, right? We all put them back somewhere, And we all think that we're just going to put them and lock them up, and they can affect us. I can still think of things, specific things in my career over the last 30 years. Many of them happened 20, 25 years ago. They're clear as day to me. I can tell you the names of people involved. They'll never leave, right? And some people go through more, some people go through less, and some people have different coping mechanisms. Some people have different supports. So
Right.
it does. It affects. There's a lot of officers who will never get to the end of a 30-year career because it will stack up long before that happens. And 30-year career law enforcement they're not, the percentages aren't high anymore. And I don't know that they ever have been,
Right.
and a lot of it is because at some point you just say, I just had enough. I just need to do something else. I don't need to go to another car accident where people are mangled up. I don't need to go to another shooting victim, right? But we try to have things in place. I wish I had a crystal ball so I could see the buildup before it got too bad. But we do is the best we can right now to be there when the officer needs us, and is ready to talk.
Okay.
But I will say that one of the differences I see now is that this new younger generation of officers we have are more willing to recognize it and talk about it than the older generation, right? My generation, when I came in, you didn't talk about it, right? You put your big boy pants on and you went to work, right? And now I think that people are just more open,
Sure.
and so it's better because people are willing to recognize it, and if they need to get some help, they can. The other thing is people are starting to realize, and I think that what we've shown is just because you might be dealing with something that's just troubling you, doesn't mean you can't be a police officer anymore, right?
Mm.
And that was a fear. I think if I say that bothered me, I'm going to look weak and I'm not going to be able to do the job anymore. They're not going to want me. But we've come a long way in saying no. We just want you healthy out there, right? We want you to come to work and be ready to work and have all that stuff, so it's not locked up and ready to explode. So I think we're seeing a switch in it, and I guarantee we haven't found the answer. We can get better in that, and we'll continue to look for ways to help them, because they need to be clear in mind when they go out there to serve the public.
Yeah. That's good to know that the people that are taking care of us, that their mental health is being taken care of as well. So, but yeah, I think we're going till 7. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ding, ding, ding. We hit it.
John, thank you for being voluntold.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for volunteering to do this for us. I'm always looking for hosts, so I've got a few lined up. I think the next chat will be with the member of the Latino Alliance, and then the following chat, the first chat in April, will be hosted by Tina Rogers. She's an educator, longtime resident of Rohnert Park. So I've got some lined up, but anyone out there, don't be surprised if I reach out and ask you to host one of these things. You do all the work. I just sit back and answer questions. So thank you, Jill, Lupe. Thank you so much. The captioner who type all this stuff, I really appreciate your work. And thanks for all the questions. Again, if you have any questions that didn't get answered, or you have something else, you saw my email, tmatos@rpcity.org. Email me. My phone number is area code 707. Gotta pick it up here. I never call myself. 584-2654. I am accessible to you at any time. So feel free to call. That's all I got. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Job, John.